Peace to the 12, man. Y'all see the title. Historian says Moses was a black man according to Muslim tradition. I'll repeat that one more time. Historian says Moses was a black man according to Muslim tradition. Yep, and I have to do this video, man. It's past midnight, but I had to do it, man, because I believe the Most High sent me a sign to do this video tonight, because earlier today I was trying to get on PowerPoint, and it was telling me that my file was corrupted and whatnot, and I was thinking, oh, all my stuff got deleted, man, you know, and I felt like that was a sign to do this video, because I had this video done last night, and I didn't do it, so I'm going to do it now, man, all right, while I am, stop being a slugger. All right, and I already know I'm going to have people clickety-clacking in the comments. Oh, what are you talking about? I don't really care. I say this every video when I do this, right? All my videos, every video I do is for the 12 tribes of Israel, not for any other nation. I don't care about the opinions of any other nation. So let's get straight to it, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the book where he states this, and then I'm going to go through this 166 page slide on expounding upon my claim. Shout out to the brother Tazarah. He brought this book to my attention. All right. So this this man right here, his name is Thomas Walker Arnold. All right. Thomas Walker Arnold. Sir Thomas Walker Arnold was a British Orientalist and historian of Islamic art. All right. He was a historian of Islamic art. He was born in the 1800s, born in 1864 to be specific. He wrote a book titled The Preaching of Islam, A History of the Propagation of the Muslim Faith. All right. This was the book. All right. The Preaching of Islam, A History of the Propagation of Muslim Faith by Thomas Walker Arnold. We're going to go to page 358. Right. This page 358. It reads, according to Mohammedan tradition, Moses was a black man. Let me get that one more time. First of all, what does Mohammedan mean? Mohammedan means a term for a follower of Muhammad, the Islamic prophet, you know, allegedly, right? Now, we know, according to the scriptures, the only prophets are the Israelites, all right? And he had not dealt so with any other nation. But let's just go off what he's saying, right? So, this page 358, he says, according to the Mohammedan tradition, Moses was a black man, as may be seen from the following passages in the Quran. Now, draw thy hand close to thy side, it shall come forth white, but unhurt. Another sign, then drew he forth his hand, and lo, it was white to the beholders. All right, in that Quran verse, that whatever he was quoting from, I can actually pull that in the Bible. All right, that's from Exodus, the 4th chapter. We go to Exodus, the 4th chapter. We're going to start at verse 5. It reads, Exodus 4 and 5. That they may believe that the Lord Yahawah, God of their fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob, hath appeared unto thee. And the Lord Yahawah said furthermore unto him, put now thy hand into thy bosom. And he put his hand into his bosom, and when he took it out, behold, his hand was leprous as snow. So that means that before he put his hand in there, his hand was dark pigmented, right? And he said, put thine hand into thy bosom again. And he put his hand into his bosom again and plucked it out of his bosom. And behold, it was turned again as his other flesh. All right, as his other flesh. He got his pigment back. Now it says leprous as snow. Now, in other translations, the NIV, it says it had become as white as snow. So his hand had turned white. All right, New Living Translation, his hand was white as snow with a severe skin disease. All right. Now, it says white as snow, was leprous like snow. His hand was leprous as snow, right? Now, it should be noted that the leprosy that it's talking about is not modern day leprosy, what they call Hansen's disease. This is not the leprosy it's talking about. This leprosy in particular is what's known as vitiligo. As you can see, the white hand is known as vitiligo. All right, vitiligo is a disease that causes loss of skin color in patches. The discolored areas usually get bigger with time. The condition can affect the skin on any part of the body. It can also affect hair and in the inside of the mouth. Normally, the color of hair and skin is determined by the melanin, right? So his hand was made white as snow. All right, now these are some pictures of vitiligo, right? Now, someone can say, well, you know, so-called white people can get vitiligo, which they would be correct. But guess what? You tell me, if you walk in a room with this form of leprosy, are you going to notice that faster than you'll notice this? You know, we know the answer, but we'll get into that later on, proving who the Israelites look like and so on and so forth. We'll get to that later. But let's get more examples of this vitiligo disease or this leprosy, right? We'll go to Numbers 12 and 10. Numbers 12 and 10 reads, "And the cloud departed from off the tabernacle, and behold, Miriam became leprous, white as snow. And Aaron looked upon Miriam, and behold, she was leprous." So she also lost her pigment and became leprous, white as snow. All right, 2 Kings 5 and 27. "The leprosy thereof of Naaman shall cleave unto thee and unto thy seed forever. And he went out from his presence a leper as white as snow." Right? Other translations of Numbers 12 and 10. White as snow, defiling of a skin disease, white as snow from leprosy, lepers like snow, white as snow, white as snow. All right, 2 Kings, same thing. 2 Kings 5:27, white as snow, white as snow, white as snow, white as snow, white as snow. Right? Now we're going to touch on the skin color of the ancient Hebrews. All right, what did the Israelites look like? All right, well, to prove what the Israelites looked at, we're going to look at two books. We're going to be looking at the Holy Bible, and we're going to be looking at the Talmud, right? And just for reference sake, I do not agree nor believe in the Talmud. I'm using this specifically as a text for proof because the Talmud is revered in the so-called Jewish faith. But I have things that I disagree with in the Talmud that I could do a video on in another video. But we're going to use both of these to prove what the Israelites look like, okay? First, we're going to take a look at the religious text of the Holy Bible. So we're going to go to Songs of Solomon, the 1st chapter and the 5th verse. This is Songs of Solomon 1 and 5. "I am black, but comely. O ye daughters of Jerusalem, as the tents of Kedar, as the curtains of Solomon." All right, so she said she was black as the tents of Kedar. Other translations: "I am black but comely. I am dark but lovely. I am black and beautiful. I am black but lovely. I am black but lovely. I am black but lovely." Black and beautiful, right? And she said, "As the tents of Kedar." These are the tents of Kedar when you Google them. All right? She was dark complected. All right? I believe this is the wife of Solomon. Song of Solomon 1 and 6. "Look not upon me because I am black. Because the sun have looked upon me, my mother's children were angry with me. They made me the keeper of the vineyards, but mine own vineyard have I not kept." All right? And yes, so-called black people as well darken in the sun. This is the tan. This is the original complexion. These are tan lines. This is the original complexion. This is the tan, right? We have tan lines as well. All right, this woman from TikTok, she put out what she looks like in the winter versus what she looks like the summer. She's the same woman. All right, Lamentations 5 and 10 speaks on us being darkened. All right, Lamentations 5 and 10. "Our skin was black like an oven because of the terrible famine." In NLT, "The famine has blackened our skin as though baked in an oven." See that? And the famine, that's talking about the heat. All right, because heat causes famine, right? Let's prove that. Heat, I asked ChatGPT, I said, can heat cause famine? It says heat contributes to famine. All right? It causes crop failure, drought, reduced nutritional value, increased pests and diseases, disruption of food supply chains. Extreme heat can disrupt it as well, right? So there we go on that. These are both Bible verses. And let me get this again real quick. Lamentations 5 and 10, I'm going to read the NLT. The famine has blackened our skin as though baked in an oven. Well, Herodotus said the same thing in his book, The Histories, when he was defining the Egyptians, right? Herodotus, historian. Some people call him the father of history, right? In his book, The Histories, Book 2, Section 22 by Herodotus, he says, "The people dwelling there, the Egyptians, are black because of the heat." So the Egyptians are black because of the heat. We're going to touch on the Egyptians as well in this video because know that the ancient Egyptians did not look like the modern day inhabitants. Controversial to some. I don't care. I'm going to do once again, I'm going to prove that in this video. And if you don't like it and you're a non-Israelite, you can go kick rocks. All right. So anyway. All right. And the word used there was melanos, by the way, in the Greek. Just for reference. But anyway. So he says the people dwell in there. The Egyptians are black because of the heat. Well, that also goes with Job 30 and 30. This is Job 30:30. "My skin is black upon me, and my bones are burned with heat." Right? Now I'm going to have people in the comments. "Now, Buster, wait just a minute. Wait just a minute. I'm going to have the mob in the comments. Wait just a minute. And they're going to be clearly clacking in the comments. They're going to say, Songs of Solomon 5 and 10. I done had this in my comments before, especially when I first started out doing these videos. I always used to get this, right? So this is Song of Solomon 5 and 10. This is what they like to quote to say, no, they were white, right? So-called white. Because keep in mind, black and white is not a race, all right? That's not a nationality. That's just the skin color, all right? Your lineage is determined by your father's seed line. Simple as that. Guess what? A Cushite, guess what? He comes from Cush, all right? A Shemite, he comes from Shem. A Hamite, he comes from Ham. An Israelite comes from what? They're the sons of Israel. Simple as that. I've done many videos on that. Anyway, Song of Solomon 5 and 10. They like to quote this. My beloved is white and ruddy, the chiefest among 10,000. That's what they like to quote. But the term white is not talking about its complexion. It's talking about clear, dry, plainly white. That's why when you go to other versions of Song of Solomon 5 and 10, it says, my beloved, in the NIV, it says, my beloved is radiant and ruddy, dark and dazzling. See that? Dark and dazzling. My beloved is radiant and ruddy, dazzling and ruddy, white and ruddy. See? So, it's not talking about his complexion. Why would it say dark and dazzling right here? Right? Radiant and ruddy, clearly. Other versions, radiant and ruddy, dazzling and ruddy, white and ruddy, dazzling and reddish. Right? And we're not done yet. We're not done yet because another thing, let's talk about the R word. They said, let's talk about the R word. What's the R word? The word ruddy. Right? Let's talk about this other word, ruddy. All right, what's the word ruddy mean and what's it pertaining to? All right, ruddy's all throughout here, like 1 Samuel 16 and 12, 1 Samuel 17, 42, Songs 5 and 10, Songs of Solomon 5 and 10, Lamentations 4 and 7, right? Ruddy. Like this one I read earlier, Songs of Solomon 5 and 10, my beloved is white and ruddy, the chiefest among 10,000. Now, this word ruddy means red, all right, and when it comes to terms of praise of the human skin. The Hebrew and Greek words are usual words for red or to be red. Now check this out. It says, the dark-skinned Hebrews found great beauty in a clear complexion. So it's telling you right here the Hebrews were dark-skinned. And they found great beauty in a clear complexion. Now when you type in ruddy today, they give you these people as if they were ruddy, right? Oh, they're a little reddish and they're ruddy, right? That's not what it's talking about, all right? That's not what it's talking about. And to prove that, when you type in the word ruddy on the computer, like if I type in a ruddy cow, this is a ruddy cow, reddish brown, reddish brown. All right, when I type in a ruddy horse, reddish brown. When I type in a ruddy goat, reddish brown, right? This is a ruddy cat, also known as the Abyssinian cat, reddish brown. All right, and I'll even give you a documented example of so-called black Africans being called ruddy by a so-called Caucasian author. We're going to go to Alan Howard Godby, who wrote his book, The Lost Tribes of Myth. Once again, he was born in the 1800s, born in 1864. As a matter of fact, this guy was born in the same year as the dude I'm referencing for the beginning of this video, right? I believe, right? Let's go real quick. 1864, yeah, what are the odds? Anyway, let's go back. He listed some so-called Africans as ruddy, proving my point, right? In his book, The Lost Tribes of Myth, we're going to go to the Lost Tribes of Myth when he's talking about the foot tribe, right? So let's read it. He reads, Foot is the son of Ham. That's true. That is a vassal of Egypt. Now the Fulas, who have pushed across Africa from Somaliland to Singaba and Lower Niger, have this very tradition that they are the descendants of Foot, the sons of Ham. Now watch what he's about to say about their complexion when I go down to here. They call themselves also the Pool, the Fool, plural, Fulbi. Fulbi. Now check this out. He says, ruddy, clear brown people. So the Fulas people, all right, I believe they're also known as the Fulani. They are clear brown, ruddy. So clearly, ruddy is a reddish brown color. All right, matter of fact, this is the Fulani tribe that he's talking about. They have a ruddy complexion, reddish brown. All right, these are Fulani women, reddish brown. What Jake called in Hip Talk, he say red bones, right? This is Ruddy Roy. This is, once again, King David is described as ruddy. This is the color ruddy. All right. I type in ruddy person. These are the people that pop up. All right. And since we're talking about the complexion of someone described as brown, we might as well talk about who the world incorrectly calls Jesus Christ. And we're going to touch back on this Egyptian video, and I'm going to get some historical records that say that about the complexion of the ancient Egyptians. And I'm also going to pull busts and statues, but stay tuned. Anyway, let's talk about who the world incorrectly calls Jesus Christ. All right, his name is not Jesus Christ. His real name is Yahawashi. I did a whole video on that you can check out called The Real Name of God. All right, go watch that for information on the Paleo/Proto-Hebrew alphabet. Back to the topic. Let's get on who the world incorrectly calls Jesus Christ, whose real name is Yahawashi. His appearance is actually mentioned in the scriptures. In Daniel 10:6, when we read Daniel 10:6, it says, his body also was like the beryl, in his face as the appearance of lightning, in his eyes as lamps of fire, in his arms and his feet like in color to polished brass, and the voice of his words like the voice of a multitude. Now people like to say, oh, polished brass isn't talking about that. Well, when we go to other translations of this same scripture, his feet like in the color of polished brass, the NIV, it says burnished bronze, right? Burnished bronze, polished bronze, burnished bronze, right? Keep in mind on this word burnished bronze. We're going to pull that up in a minute. It also speaks about his complexion in Revelations, the 1st chapter, in the 15th verse, which reads, and his feet like unto fine brass, as if they have burned in a furnace, and his voice as the sound of many waters. Now this fine brass, in other translations, burnished bronze, burnished bronze, burnished bronze, burnished bronze, burnished bronze. Try to have that white hot. Now watch. This, I typed in Google, right? I said burnished bronze. It says the finish allows bronze to age naturally over time as it is exposed to the elements. This is the complexion of the Messiah, the Lord, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ, real name Yahawashi Hamashiach. This is burnished bronze, dark brown. All right. This is something akin to what was being cited in Revelations 1:13 and Daniel 10:5. Right? As a matter of fact, we can look at another historian. All right, Godfrey Higgins, English magistrate, landowner, prominent advocate for social reform, historian, and antiquarian, right? He was born in 1772. This man, Godfrey Higgins. I quote this man all the time. His book, he had a two series books known as Anacalypsis, Volume 1 and 2. We're going to pull Volume 1. All right, January 30, 1772, born in the 1700s. We're going to look at his book, Anacalypsis, by Godfrey Higgins. This is what he had to say about who the world incorrectly calls Jesus Christ. We're going to go to page 173, we're going to go to page 174, and we're going to go to page 175, all in that one margin, right? We're only going to go to the highlighted portions for sake of time, but you can pause it because there's gems in this in general. But let's go to the highlighted portion. The reader has already seen the striking marks of similarity in the history of Krishna and the stories related of Jesus in the Romish and heretical books. Now I'm going to say what he has written directly. All right. He probably will not think their effect is destroyed, or he probably will not think that their effect is destroyed, as Mr. Maurice flatters himself, by the word Krishna in the Indian language signifying black. And I've done a video on the black presence in India, and I'm going to touch on that again in one of my future videos I got coming up, dealing with ancient black civilizations that nobody ever tells you about. But anyway, in the God being of that color, when he is informed of what Mr. Maurice was probably ignorant, that in all the Romish countries of Europe, in France, Italy, Germany, etc., check this out, the God Christ, as well as his mother, are described in their old pictures and statues to be black. To be black, to Christ and his mother. All right, and this is not the video for that, but I do not subscribe to the actual virgin birth, okay? But that's another video for another day. I know a lot of people are going to be, what are you talking about? That's another video for another day. But nonetheless, he says that in Italy, Germany, Europe, France, and countries of Europe, the God Christ as well as his mother are described in old pictures and statues to be black, right? The infant God in the arms of his black mother, his eyes in drapery white, is himself perfectly black. And they always give you a reason for this, which is a bullshit reason. Oh, well, the reason why their skin is black is because the smoke from the candles over the years get out of here, man. And he's actually gonna speak on that misnomer, that lie they tell you on why they were painted as black. He's gonna speak on that. All right. If the reader doubt my word, he may go to the Cathedral of Moulins, to the famous Chapel of the Virgin at Loreto, to the Church of Amoncita, the Church of St. Lazaro, or the Church of St. Stephen of Genoa, and St. Francisco at Pisa, to the Church at Brixen in the Tyrol, and to that of Padua, to the Church of St. Theodore. So he's dropping names. He was saying that all these places used to have black figures, which I'm sure some of them have no longer been there. They've been remodeled, destroyed, or hidden. But at Munich, into the two last, which the whiteness of the eyes and teeth and the studied redness of their lips are very observable. So he's saying their teeth are still white. Smoke didn't get that. Their lips are still red. Smoke didn't get that. So their skin was not black. But he's going to elaborate even further in this, right? So let's keep going. Which the whiteness of the eyes and teeth and the steady redness of the lips are very observable. To a church and to the Cathedral of Augsburg, where a black virgin and child as large as life. To Rome, to the Borghese Chapel, Maria Maggiore, to the Pantheon, to a small chapel of St. Peter's, or the right-hand side of entering near the door, and in fact, to almost innumerable other churches. So innumerable other churches in countries professing the Romish religion. So he's telling you that the so-called the black mother and child are painted as black in all these different countries in Europe. You know why? Because there was black presence in Europe. You know, I've done many videos on that as well. All right, that's what they don't tell you about. But anyway, now check this out. There is scarcely an old church in Italy where some remains of the worship of the black virgin and black child are not to be met with. Very often, the black figures have given way to white ones. See, they replaced them. Very often, the black figures have given way to the white ones, and in these cases, the black ones, as being held sacred, were put into retired places in the churches, but were not destroyed. That would mean they were hidden, but are yet to be found there, right? In many cases, the images are painted all over it and look like bronze. Remember, burnished bronze, right? Burnished bronze. Often with colored persons or napkins round the loins or other parts. But pictures in great numbers are to be seen where the white of the eyes and of the teeth and of the lips, little tinged with red, like the black figure in the Museum of the India Company, show that there is no inflation of bronze. Or no initiation of bronze. All right, so a lot of things were covered with bronze to cover the blackened complexion. When I say that bronze, I'm talking about a lighter shade of bronze, not burnished bronze. In many instances, these images and pictures are shaded, not all one color, of very dark brown, so dark as to look like black. They are generally esteemed by the rabble with the most profound veneration. The toes are often white, the brown or black paint being kissed away by the devotees. So they done kissed off the paint at the bottom and the white wood left. And that's off as hell because that's idolatry. All right. Kissing a statue, all that's idolatry. The scriptures speak against that in the laws, man. We're not to worship idols. All right. We're not to pray to statues. We're not to kiss statues or none of that, right? Now, no doubt, once again, the toes are often white, the brown and black paint being kissed away by the devotees and the white wood left. No doubt in many places when the priests have new painted the images, they have colored the eyes, teeth, in order that they may not shock the feelings of devotees by the sudden change from black to white. So he's saying no doubt they had to get rid of the black figures and paint them as white so it didn't shock the devotees. And in order at the same time that they might furnish a decent pretense for their blackness, that they are an imitation of bronze, but the number that are left with white teeth, etc., let out the secret. Right? When the circumstance has been named to the Romish priests, they have endeavored to disguise the fact. All right, so the Romish priests have disguised the fact as an endeavor. They have worked hard on this by pretending that the child, now check this out, they pretend it's all a lie. Let's read this again. When the circumstance has been named at the Romish priests, they have endeavored to disguise the fact by pretending that the child had become black by the smoke of the candles. This was back in the 1700s when he said this. Well, this book was written in the 1800s, but he was born in the 1700s. This is all the way back in the day, right? In the 18th century, they were still telling this same line that they tell today, which is that, oh, the smoke of the candles is what turned them black. All right, they pretend the child had become black by the smoke of the candles, but it was black where the smoke of the candle never came. And besides, how come the candles not to blacken the white of the eyes or the teeth? So he says, hey, that's a lie, man. That's bullshit, right? BS. Because the candles didn't blacken the eyes or the white outfits they have on. I'm going to show some pictures in a minute, right? And you can even look some of these pictures up to this very day. They're still alive. The Black Virgin, the Black Madonna, right? This is a remodel right here. Because remember, he mentioned a blackened one in Augsburg, Germany. This is clearly a remodel, all right? Which he mentioned they were doing. They were making remodels out of bronze and so on and so forth. Now, this is the last part I'm going to get, and then I'm going to continue. This page 175 of Narcolepsis Volume 1. He says, the shirt, let me go back real quick. How come the candles did not blacken the white of the eyes, the teeth, and the shirt? And how come they to the reddened lips? The mother is the author believes always black when the child is. Their real blackness is not to be questioned for a moment. Their real blackness is not to be questioned for a moment. And this is what he's talking about. The smoke didn't darken this white. The whiteness, the smoke didn't darken none of this things white or the redness of their lips. All right? This is what he's talking about. All right? The mother and son. Right? Which again, this is all pagan. This is adultery. Or not adultery. This is idolatry. And then, of course, we know the texture of our Lord's hair. Revelations 1:14. His head and his hairs were white like wool, as white as snow, and his eyes were a flame of fire. All right, like white wool. Right? His hair like the purest wool. The hair of his head was like lamb's wool. Well, as you know, black people have what they call woolly hair. All right? I even asked ChatGPT, I said, do black people have hair like sheep's wool? While some individuals of African descent may have tightly coiled or kinky hair textures that might be described as resembling wool. Right? So that's that part on Hamashiach, who the world calls Jesus Christ. Let's continue on. We're in good time. We're about 30 minutes in. I'm on slide 75. We got 160 slides. Now let's go to the Talmud. All right? Now this is what the Talmud is. The Talmud is the central text of rabbinic Judaism and the primary source of Jewish religious law and Jewish theology. All right, highly regarded by the so-called Jewish community. All right? According to Maimonides, who, by the way, has said some racist things about so-called blacks, I've read a book about it. I might do a video on that if you like. But Maimonides, all Jewish communities during the Gaelic era formally accepted the Babylonian Talmud as binding upon themselves. And modern Jewish practice follows the Babylonian Talmud's conclusion on all areas in which the two Talmuds. Right? The Talmud is one of the most important holy books of the Hebrew religion and of the world. I would say it's the most important book of the so-called Jewish religion. All right, but the reason I'm even using this book, because Job 15 tell you. We go to Job 15:6. It says, thine own mouth condemneth thee, and not I. Yeah, thine own lips testify against thee. So their own mouth condemns them. Why? Through their textual literature. Because when we go to the Talmud, Rabbi Gerald Friedlander, we go to the Talmud, Pirkei, the Rabbi Eleazar, chapter 24. We go to here. It talks about Noah's sons, which, by the way, I'm about to disagree with part of this because, believe it or not, Japheth was not a so-called white man. The original inhabitants of Europe were so-called black people. I've done so many videos on that, and that's according to DNA tests, skull findings, and pottery. All right, the original inhabitants of Europe were the Japhites, and they would today be what you would say as look like an Australian Aboriginal. Once again, I've done videos on that. Watch my video, Original European. I did a video, I think it was called Sons of Japheth. I've done videos on this. But anyway, we're going to pull an excerpt from this book that they believe, the Talmud, where it talks about the sons of Ham. Now, the sons of Ham are important to know because Moses, Joseph, and Paul were mistaken for an Egyptian, which is a son of Ham. Now, we're about to read about the complexion of Ham according to this Talmud, right? So this is Perka the Rabbi Eleazar, chapter 24. It says, Noah. This is Nimrod, Tower of Babel. Noah bought his sons and his grandsons, and he blessed them with their several settlements, and he gave them as an inheritance all the earth. He especially blessed Shem and his sons, making them dark but comely. So even Shem and his sons were dark but comely, right? And he gave them the habitable earth. Now check this out. This is important. This is according to their literature that they use. He says, he blessed Ham and his sons, making them dark like the raven, and he gave them the inheritance of the coast of the sea. So Ham and his sons were made dark like the raven, black like the raven. This is the raven's color. This is a very dark-skinned woman. Notice he said Ham and his sons, plural. Then they try to say he blessed Japheth and his sons, making them entirely white. Once again, I do not agree with the Talmud, but I'm using their own literature to prove my what I'm saying, right? So keep in mind, he says Ham and his sons were dark like the raven. All right, very, very so-called dark skin, dark to black, dark brown to black. All right, as a matter of fact, even in the Eastern Bible Dictionary, the word Ham means hot, warm, and it's an Egyptian word meaning black. All right, the Egyptian word for Ham is black. All right, and when we go to the Compact Bible Dictionary, the Negroes are excluded from the races of Ham. This is according to the Compact Bible Dictionary. Ham, the youngest son of Noah, the progenitor of the dark races, not the Negroes, but the Egyptians, Ethiopians, Libyans, and Canaanites. All right, so we're not Hamites, and I'm gonna do a video on that at another time. I'm gonna title it "All Black Africans Are Not Negroes," according to these people, right? But anyway, we're gonna focus on the Egyptians, right? We'll go to Genesis 10:6. It says, "And the sons of Ham, Cush, and Mizraim, and Phut, and Canaan." So Mizraim is one of the sons of Ham. Remember, they say Ham and his sons were made black like the raven. So Mizraim, through Mizraim, that's where you get Egypt. Mizraim. It was a name generally given by the Hebrews to the land of Egypt. All right? Kemet, which is what Egypt used to be called. Kemet was called black land, which they allege always called black land because of the soil. No. But anyway, the word Kemet or Kemet in the ancient Egyptian language is translated to meaning black. Land of the blacks or the black land. It's the Egyptian word for black, Kemet, black land, right? Simple as that. Now we're going to take a look at some of the pharaohs. We're going to take a look at some of the pharaohs because what people like to do, the Egyptians look like Arabs, right? Because you look at the modern ones and you look at this sculpture and you got blah, blah, blah. Well, let's look at the ancient pharaohs according to these historians, according to these Egyptologists, right? So first I asked Google this. I say, were the Egyptians black? Google says, Ortiz de Montano wrote in 1993, the claim that all Egyptians or even all the pharaohs were black is not valid, which I would agree. All the pharaohs were not black because they were conquered through various times by the Greeks, the Romans, as well as the Muslim Turks, as well as the Arabs. All right? Most scholars, or Muslims, most scholars believe that the Egyptians in antiquity looked pretty much as they look today with a gradation of darker shades toward the Sudan. So they say, most agree. I don't give a damn what they agree. We're gonna look at these old pharaohs and prove my point, man. Because they like to say, the only black pharaohs were in the 25th dynasty, were the Kushite rulers. That's what they like to do. All right, and you see people like this who post shit like this. Oh, wow, look at this. This is me. This is me. We look the same. We look the same. Even though they don't keep any of the cultures and all of them are practicing Islam. Why are they not keeping an Egyptian religion? But anyway, you're hiding something because they all don't look like this. You're hiding something. Let's prove that. So we're going to take it all the way back to the first dynasty of Kemet. All right. And pharaohs were also, I believe they were called Nasut or something like that. Brothers can correct me that in the comments. But we're going to take it all the way back to the first dynasty. Back to Pharaoh Narmer. This fake image. Pharaoh Narmer. All right. All the way back to Pharaoh Narmer back in the 3000s of BC. All right. Now this is a face of King Menes, also known as Narmer. All right. Pharaoh Narmer. Look at his face. Right. Now, this is a picture of Mike Tyson. This is a picture of Pharaoh Narmer. Ear, nose, lip ratio. Same here. Pharaoh Narmenes. Like I like to say, all the pharaohs had alkaline noses. Remember that famous Egyptologist tried to say that? Yeah, this is not an alkaline nose. Right? And this reminds you of the first Egyptian pharaoh. Also, some people say that Pharaoh Narmer was actually Nimrod in the Bible. All right? The mighty one of Cush. But that's a video for another day. Now we're going to go to the second dynasty. Ninetjer. This is Ninetjer, Pharaoh, second dynasty of Egypt. This is the bust that they have of Ninetjer. This is KRS-One the rapper. Ninetjer. KRS-One the rapper. Ninetjer. Same nose. Literally the exact same nose, same lips. This is another bust that they have of Ninetjer. And this is a Hamar tribe Ethiopian woman. They have the same hair style and the same nose, right? And that's what they so-called call Negroid features: the flattish nose, flat root of nose, narrower ears. All right, that's what they call so-called Negroid features, right? The flattish nose, the narrow ears, just like the bust I just showed, right? Let's keep getting a couple other ones though. So, but first, let me go back. So acting like they all look like this, cap. Just pure cap. Lies. Now let's go to Pharaoh Khufu of the 4th dynasty. This Pharaoh Khufu. As you can see, same thing, flattish nose and the lips. Pharaoh Khufu, same nose, same lips. Same ears. All right. Next Pharaoh, let's go to Pharaoh Menkaure, or Menkaure, however you say it. I don't know. I'm not an Egyptian. You know, Pharaoh from 4th dynasty. This is how Pharaoh Menkaure looked. Pharaoh from the 4th dynasty. Now pay attention to this hairstyle right here. Right? Same Hamar hairstyle. Let's look at the 5th dynasty, Pharaoh Nefer-Frey. This is Pharaoh Nefer-Frey. He got waves in his hair. The man got waves in his hair. Look at that. Waves. No way around it. And the fact that they have waves, that's just like the scriptures say, there's no new thing under the sun. Ecclesiastes 1:9. The thing that has been is that which shall be, and that which is done is that which shall be done, and there is no new thing under the sun. No new thing under the sun. They had waves back then. They got waves now. Is there anything whereof it may be said, see, this is new? It hath been already of old time, which was before us. Case in point right there. Right? This is Neser Ani, the 5th dynasty. Once again, this is Neser Ani. Look at that. KRS-One nose. Lips. See that? Pepi Pharaoh the 1st of the 6th dynasty. Here you go. Here's a picture of an African. Of a black African. Alright? And you might say, and one might say, well, why does the complexion of the ancient Egyptians matter? Why does this have to do with the Israelites? Because all throughout the Bible, Hebrews and Israelites were mistaken for ancient Egyptians, which means that the Israelites looked exactly like the ancient Egyptians. I'll give you an example. Moses, all right, the lawgiver, Moses, right? So we'll read the example where Moses was sent through the lake, right? Exodus 2:7. Then said his sister, through the river. Then said his sister to Pharaoh's daughter, shall I go and call to thee a nurse of the Hebrew woman, that she may nurse the child for thee? And Pharaoh's daughter said to her, go. And the maid went and called the child's mother. And Pharaoh's daughter said unto her, take this child away and nurse it for me, and I'll give thee thy wages. And the woman took the child and nursed it. And the child grew, and she brought him unto Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son. And she called his name Moses, and she said, because I drew him out of the water. So Moses, or Masha, or as they say in Yiddish, Moshe, Moses was raised by the Pharaoh's daughter. You know why? Because they look just like the Egyptians. Otherwise, he would stick out like a sore thumb. They'd be like, oh, this is clearly a Hebrew boy. Right? Clearly that didn't happen. Now, when we go to Exodus 2 and 15, it's clear that Moses is mistaken for an Egyptian. We go to Exodus 2 and 15. Now, when Pharaoh heard this thing, he sought to slay Moses, but Moses fled from the face of Pharaoh and dwelt in the land of Midian. And he sat down by a well. Now, the priests of Midian had 7 daughters, and they came and drew water and filled the troughs to water their father's flock. And the shepherds came and drove them away. But Moses stood up and helped them and watered their flock. And when they came to Rael, their father, he said, how is it that ye are come so soon today? It's like, dang, that was fast. Y'all did that early. This is what they said about Moses. And they said, an Egyptian delivered us out of the hand of the shepherds and also drew water enough for us and watered the flock. So they just thought Moses was an Egyptian. All right. And that's because Moses was a so-called black man, just like the ancient Egyptians. Joseph was also mistaken for an Egyptian. We go to Genesis 37 and we go to Genesis 37 and 23. It reads about him being sold to the Israelites who sold him into Egypt. And then Genesis 37 and 36 tell you the Midianites sold him into Egypt and onto Potiphar, an officer of the Pharaohs and captain of the guard. So Joseph was sold into slavery to the Egyptians, right? And Potiphar was an Egyptian. The captain guard bought Moses from the Ishmaelites. Now, and that also shows you the Ishmaelites were already going through Egypt even in this time frame. But this is the point. Joseph was sold into slavery under the Egyptians, and his brothers came to see them when they become adults, and they don't even recognize Joseph. They just think Joseph is another Egyptian, right? Let's read that. Genesis 42, and we're going to start at 3. Genesis 42 and 3. And Joseph's 10 brethren went down to buy corn in Egypt, but Benjamin, Joseph's brother Jacob, sent not with his brethren, for he said, lest peradventure mischief befall him. And the sons of Israel came to buy corn among those that came, for the famine was in the land of Canaan. All right? And Joseph was the governor over the land, and it was that sold to all the people of the land. And Joseph's brethren came and bowed down themselves before him with their faces to the earth. So they bowed down to him as if he was an Egyptian ruler. And Joseph saw his brethren, and he knew them. So he recognized them. Hey, these are my brothers. And Joseph saw his brethren, and he knew them, but made himself strange unto them, and spake roughly unto them. And he said unto them, whence come ye? And they said, from the land of Canaan, to buy food. Other translations where it says, and Joseph saw his brethren, and he knew them. Other translations is Joseph recognized his brothers, but they did not recognize him. They just thought he was an Egyptian. All right, that's because Joseph looked like the Egyptians. Paul was also mistaken for an Egyptian when you read Acts, the 21st chapter. All right, when we read Acts, the 21st chapter, let's kick it. Acts 21 and 37, it reads, and as Paul was to be led into the castle, he said unto the chief captain, may I speak unto thee? Who said, oh man, Microsoft Word popped up for some reason. Let me click off this. Anyway, who said, canst thou speak Greek? Now check this out. Art not thou that Egyptian, which before these days made us an uproar and led us out into the wilderness 4,000 men that were murderers? Again, Paul was mistaken for an Egyptian. This is Paul's response. Acts 21:39. But Paul said, I am a man which am a Jew of Tarsus, a city in Cilicia, a citizen of no mean city, and I beseech thee, suffer me to speak unto the people. And that's not even me including Acts 13 and 1 or Acts 15 and 1, where Simon was called Niger. Look that word up. That's where you get the N word. Even in the blue letter, it tells you he was called that for his dark complexion, right? And again, in the Talmud, when you read Bereshit Rabbah 40, Genesis 12 and 11, where it says it will be when the Egyptians will see you, they will say, this is his wife, and they will kill me and keep you alive. Now, this is what they had to say about the Egyptians, according to Rabbi Zerah, or Rabbi Simon, one of them. He says, we traveled through Aram Naharayim and Aram Nahor and Nahor, and he did not encounter a woman as fair as you. Now that we are entering a place of ugly and swarthy people, please say you are my sister. He said ugly and swarthy people, which again, this shows you that they see black as ugly. You know, once again, I do not agree with the Talmud, but again, they are calling the Egyptians ugly and swarthy people. Really, it's saying black and ugly, because in addition to Genesis 12 and 11 Torah study, it says, here's something else that looks horrible in first glance. Rashi calls the Egyptians black and ugly, right? He called the Egyptians black and ugly. All right, this is from Tamar Kadari, Sarah, Midrash, and Agada. It says, the Egyptians again say ugly and black. Ugly and black. Egypt, the Egyptians. That's because the ancient Egyptians were so-called black people. Now, of course, they go the hell off and they say, Sarah was fair and white. No, she wasn't. No, she wasn't. That's not documented in the scriptures. But, nonetheless, that's what he said. Oh, hell. My computer freezing. Satan trying to take away the word. See, we still rolling. Bet. Anyway, that's Rabbi Ishmael. See what he had to say. Oh, that was Rabbi Ishmael that I was quoting, I believe. All right, no. We'll use this guy in a minute. Let me put this guy where the other Talmud part is. Salakia, 1 second. Yeah, we'll touch on you in a minute. Now, they said that the Egyptians were ugly and black. That was the point. Let's go back to that for proof of that. Black and ugly. Black and ugly. Ugly and swarthy people. They really meant black. Now, let's get people that talked about the Egyptians. This is Xenophanes. Probably said his name horribly wrong. Xenophanes, whatever his name is. Xenophanes. He was a philosopher, a Greek philosopher, right? This is what he had to say. Xenophanes, Hassad, works and says, 527-8. The men of Egypt are mostly brown and black with a skinny, desiccated look. Yeah, they were lanky, very tall, lanky, and black. All right, all throughout people that describe the Egyptians, they used to say they were very tall legs, lanky, black. All right, this is Gerald Massey, writer on spiritualism in Egypt, also an English poet, born in the 1800s. Gerald Massey wrote a book of the beginners, volume 1, where he says, page 24, he says the Egyptians were black. And once again, I proved to y'all we were mistaken for the Egyptians. That's why I'm going into this, right? Highlighted portion. Men of the dark and despised race. See that? Dark and despised race. The black blood royal that fed the red, yellow, and white races and got the skin somewhat blanched in Egypt. The men who had dwelt in the Nile Valley and by the fountains of the waters in the highlands above, so long and unknown ages past. Now check this out. That the Negroid type of form of complexion had modified into the primitive Egyptian. The Negroid type had modified into the Egyptian. Now remember, these are so-called Negroid features according to the so-called white man when he classified us as Negroid, Mongoloid, Caucasoid, all that other madness, right? Now, we go to here, page 24, he says, Livingston found the likeness of these in typical Negro of Central Africa, or rather he affirms that the typical Negro found in Central Africa is to be seen in the ancient Egyptians, not in the native of the West Coast. The oldest form of the Great Mother, page 14, the oldest form of the Great Mother was the black Negroid Isis. He calls Isis, the Egyptian, the false Egyptian pagan deity, as Negroid. Godfrey Higgins, let's touch back on him. Once again, the historian, we touched on him earlier. We're going to go to page 398. We're going to see what he says. He says, Dr. Picard has observed that the Brahmins are, as might be expected, the finest formed race in India. He has also shown in a very satisfactory manner, now check this out, in a very satisfactory manner he showed this, that the ancient Egyptians, the masters of Thebes, were Negroes, or that they were black with curly heads. So the ancient Egyptians were black, so were the ancient Israelites. And this is James Calls Picard, Physical History of Mankind, touched upon the subject of so-called evolutions, yada, yada, yada. This is Emil Amilano. I don't know how you say his name. He was an archaeologist and Egyptologist, born in the 1800s. This is what he had to say. He says, from various Egyptian legends, I have been able to conclude that the population settled in the Nile Valley were Negroes. All right. Since the feminine cosmic power Isis was said to have been a reddish black woman. And that's that ruddy, you see that? Reddish black woman? The ruddy I'm talking about. Reddish brown, reddish black. Let's go back to the Fulani tribe real quick. Let's pull them up real quick. That reddish brown, right? That's ruddy. Well, let's go back to where I'm at, man. Let's go back to where I'm at. Yeah. Reddish black. And that's what same thing what Garo Massey said, the black Negroid Isis. Right? Let's go to the next guy, Jean-Francois Champollion. Born in 1790. He's known as the founding figure of the field of Egyptology. They call this man the father of Egyptology. This is what he had to say in his book, Letters to Egypt. Yeah, it's written in France, but y'all see it. And shout out to the man, Coeli Micah. I got this from him. He says, the first tribes that inhabited Egypt, that is the Nile Valley between the Cyrene Cataract and the sea, came from Abyssinia to Sennar. The ancient Egyptians belonged to a race quite similar to the Kenis or barbarous, present inhabitants of Nubia. These are your present inhabitants of Nubia, your Nubians, right? In the Copts of Egypt, we do not find any characteristic features of the ancient Egyptian population. The Copts are the result of crossbreeding with all the nations that have successfully dominated Egypt. It is wrong to seek them the principal features of the old race. So we're saying the modern inhabitants do not match the description of the old ancient race. That's because they had been invaded, once again, like I told you, by the Caucasian Muslim Turks, by the Romans, the Greeks, and the Arabs, the Arab Muslims, right? And these are the modern day Copts who look like they have mixed lineage. As a matter of fact, you look at a modern North African. This is Moroccan Salahuddin Benchiki, right? I don't know how you say his name. Look at this guy and look at the rapper Drake. Now remember, Drake is the product of a so-called black man and a Caucasian Jewish woman. All right? These men look like they brothers, they cousins, right? So what happened? What happened to the Egyptians? Well, they were mingled when they were conquered. All right, the Greeks occupied Egypt from 332 to 30 BCE. All right, from Alexander the Great invading Egypt. Mixed army of Macedonians and Greece. Right? So that's 300 years pretty much of them being there. Which Alexander the Macedonian was an Amalekite, aka he was an Edomite. That's pursuant to the editions of Esther, where it tells you that the Macedonians are Amalekites. Right? I've done videos on that. Then we look at Rome occupying Egypt. Rome ruled over Egypt for 600 years. All right? And in 640 AD, guess what happened? In 640 AD, Arab Muslim army sent by Caliph Omar begins his siege on Heliopolis. The city succumbs late July, paving the way for a Muslim conquest of Byzantine Egypt. So the Muslim conquest, 640 AD, Muslim conquest of Egypt. Then you have the Ottomans, the Ottoman Turks, the Caucasian Muslims, who occupied Egypt from 1517 until 1867. All right? So you have all these different people coming in there, pushing people and mixing them, mingling them, doing all type of stuff, right? And what do you get? So these are the Ottoman Empire, right? So when you put the lime in the coconut and you mix all that up, you come up with the present inhabitants. So much, in fact, that according to the American Census, the U.S. Census says Middle Eastern and North Africans are classified as white. All right? There's a reality about race in the U.S. that has confounded many people of Middle Eastern and North African descent. The federal government officially categorizes people with origins in Lebanon, Iran, Egypt, and other countries in the MENA region as white. See that? So these so-called Arabs, a lot of them are classified as white in the U.S. Census. I wonder why. Right? But anyway, let's keep reading, man. Where we at? We 54 minutes in. I got about 10, 20 slides left. Let's get it going. Constantine Francois Chassebeau was a French philosopher. He was a politician, writer, Orientalist, abolitionist. He was all that, right? Born in the 1700s, born 1757, died 1820. He was another Frenchie, right? Let's go to his book. Travels through Syria and Egypt in the years of 1783, 1784, and 1785. This is what he had to say. Its features precisely those of the Negro. I believe he was talking about the Sphinx, I believe. I recollected the remarkable passage of Herodotus in which he says, "For my part, I believe the Colchi to be a colony of Egyptians, because like them, they have black skins and frizzled hair. That is, that the ancient Egyptians were real Negroes of the same species with all the natives of Africa." So the ancient Egyptians were real Negroes according to him. And though as might be expected after mixing, check this out, mixing for as many ages with the Greeks and Romans, they have lost their intensity of their first color, yet they still retain strong marks of the original conformation. See that? Mixed. All right? That's why the rapper Drake looks like this North African man. Point blank period. Let's get to this part, page 83. If I didn't recite the last page, it was page 82. This is page 83 of the same book, Travels Through Syria and Egypt in the year 1783 by Chasuble, the French guy. He says, the Copts descended from the profound generation of the Egyptians, or genus of the Egyptians, and the brilliant intelligence of the Greeks. Now check this out. When we reflect that the race of Negroes at present are slaves and the objects of extreme contempt, we owe our arts, sciences, and even the very use of speech. All right, and they treat us like trash. But he's saying, look, they owe science, speech, arts to the Negroes. All right, who he said the ancient Egyptians were, by the way. Now, all that being said, let's go one more part to prove my point. Let's keep it in the Talmud. This guy, Rabbi Ishmael, I say so-called rabbi because we know the scriptures in the New Testament say, "Call no man rabbi, but one is your master," all right, which is our Lord Yahawashi Mashiach. But Rabbi Ishmael, born in 90 AD, this is what he had to say in Mishnah Nagaim 2. This is what he had to say. He says, Rabbi Ishmael says the children of Israel are like boxwood, neither black nor white, but of an intermediate shade. So he's telling you right now that the children of Israel were not white people, nor were they dark-skinned black people. They were of a shade in the middle. Well, isn't it? Don't you know so-called black people come in different shades of brown, from caramel, almond, hazelnut, toffee, java, espresso, ebony, deep ebony? All right, this is according to him. All right. So if they were like boxwood, they didn't look like this guy in the first century because he was writing this during the first century. So the Israelites of the first century did not look like this, which makes it so funny to me because they always want to come at us and label us Black Hebrew Israelites. We do not claim the term, but they want to label us that. But they don't ever question the identity of the other people who are so-called white complected, though we just read according to their own literature, the original Israelites were of a boxwood shade in between black and white coloration, right? It's just interesting that they do that. Even though there are certain rabbis like Rabbi Rosenberg, there's Dr. Michael Brown, there's another rabbi, I don't remember his name off the top. He actually says the so-called African Americans are descended from Israelites. So is the Igbo Limba from South Africa, so on and so forth. You know, which really, to be honest with you, to be 1,000% honest with you, I don't really need their acknowledgement. I just use what they say because a lot of Negroes, they believe anything the so-called white man says, so I got to show them what they say so they can believe him. You know, because a lot of so-called black people don't care what a Negro got to say. They care about they dad, the so-called white man. But anyway, it's just funny to me that they never question their origins. Here they say they're like boxwood. They never question their origins. And even when you look up the origin of the Ashkenazi, they say they descend from Jews who lived in Central Eastern Europe. The term was initially used to define a distinct cultural group of Jews who settled in the 10th century in Rhineland in the Western Germany. So in 900 AD, that's where they say they get their origins from, man. They don't ever question them, though. Remember, they said they were like boxwood. And we know they look like the Egyptians. But you know what? Anyway, man, it is what it is. The scriptures say all these people are against us and they want to take our identity. All right. The Ishmaelites as well. Right? A lot of Jakes, they like to click up with these with Ishmael and all that. Look, they don't like you, man. And they want to hide your identity. That's why you got people like, let's go back. That's why you got people like this. Oh, they always look like this. Get out of here, man. Now, I'm going to end it with Psalms 83. I'm going to end it with this, man. Right? Psalms 83, we'll go to verse 1 through 8. A song or psalm of Asaph. Keep not thy silence, O God. Hold not thy peace, and be not still, O God. For lo, thine enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up the head. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people, and consulted against thy hidden ones. So there is crafty counsel taken against our people, the Israelites. They have said, come, and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. That's why they want you to think that the so-called Negro is a nobody in history, and all he has to look for is slavery, 1619, all that other madness. All right. They don't want, they say you're not the Egyptians, you're not the Israelites. They say you're not none of that. They even try to say the Phoenicians or the Canaanites. They say they're white. They don't want you to be anybody in history, right? They said, come, let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may no more be in remembrance. For they have consulted together with one consent, they are confederate against thee. Now these are the top ops, our top enemies that lead this place of cutting us off from being a nation. The tabernacles of Edom and the Ishmaelites, and of Moab and the Hagarenes. All right, the so-called Caucasoid as well as the so-called Arab. That's Esau and Ishmaelites. Moab and the Hagarenes, Gabal and Ammon and Amalek, the Philistines with the inhabitants of Tyre. Ashur also is joined with them. They have Hopin, the children of Salah. All these nations want to cut us off from being a nation. They don't want to acknowledge us as the children of God. But it don't matter. The truth's coming out. I'm going to keep revealing these books. All right. That's the conclusion to the title of this book, which once again they said, according to Mohammedan tradition, Moses was a black man. And that's the end of this conclusion of this video. Historian says Moses was a black man according to Muslim tradition. So with that, I thank you all for listening. Once again, I want to say peace to the 12, and I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to the Heavenly Father, the Most High, Yahawah, in the name of His only begotten Son, yahawashi. Yahawah is the name of the Heavenly Father, who is commonly known as God. Yahawashi is the Savior of the nation of Israel, who is commonly known as Jesus Christ. I want to say Shalom, which means peace to you people that are listening and learning, you brothers doing this work of truth and sincerity, and to you elders that's been doing this thing before me. I'm going to keep doing this work. All right. And if you ain't with us, man, it's FU. It's all for the Israelites. Peace.